I don't know if you know this. There's a Super Bowl that's going to be played this week. I'm not going to sit here and just immediately tell you who I think is going to win because that video is like 30 seconds and not very interesting. But I will tell you what I think will win this game. There's one element of this game that I think will win it for either one of these teams. First, let's look at the tail of the tape. Let's start up top with the head coaches. Nick Sirianni has done a really good job. I know that he got off to a rough start in his introductory press conference with the Eagles a couple of years ago, but Nick Sirianni has done a really good job of putting this team in a position to win. Not asking Jalen Hurts to throw the ball 50 times. They know what they are, they know what they're good at, and they execute what they're good at really well. And so credit goes to Nick Sirianni. This has been a interesting hire at the beginning, and it's been a success. I mean, you're in the Super Bowl. You have been a success. But Andy Reid might be a top 10 coach of all time. And you could make the argument, and I might make the argument, I don't know, I've never done like an entire list of NFL head coaches, that he's top 5. Andy Reid is a magician and a tactician when it comes to the offensive side of the ball. And this stat has always fascinated me. Andy Reid is 27-4 off bye weeks, meaning with extra time, with the ability to watch more tape and see more coverages and see what the defense is doing, he's better. He can pick it apart. And one of those off the bye weeks was a couple of years ago, the Super Bowl. And that was just because Patrick Mahomes couldn't stand because the offensive line was hurt and that Bucs front was really able to get after him. But with the head coaching position, the edge goes to the Chiefs. This one seems pretty obvious. The Eagles had the best running attack in all of the NFL this season. They were first in touchdowns, they were third in attempts, and fifth in rushing yards this season. As a whole, the offensive line for the Eagles might be the best singular unit in the entire NFL. They are that special, and they lean on that offensive line and their rushing attack to win them a lot of games. And obviously, they're 14-3, or I guess now 16-3, and they have won a lot of games, and mostly because of their run game. Now, I will say that the Chiefs' run game isn't as bad as I think people have made it out to be. The Chiefs actually finished 7th this season in rushing touchdowns. So it's not like they finished 31st in rushing touchdowns this season. Isaiah Pacheco has been a madman out of the backfield and runs really, really hard. And Jerick McKinnon has been a nice kind of change of pace back. He's been great and phenomenal in the pass game, but I know we're not talking about that right now. But this Kansas City Chiefs defense, with an improved offensive line from last season and a couple of seasons ago, this unit for the Chiefs has been decent, and I don't think a lot of people talk about it. But they're not as good as the Eagles' run game, obviously. So this goes to the Eagles. All right, so this one is just as obvious, but in the other direction. The pass game obviously goes to the Kansas City Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, Travis Kelce, those three are some of the best at what they do. And this passing attack has been lethal. Patrick Mahomes finished the season first in passing yards. And I know that there's a stat that the season passing leader who has played in the Super Bowl, they're 0-6. I get it. However, it seems like now that the NFL is more dependent on the pass game as a whole, that maybe that's not going to be a huge deterrent. And it's not like Patrick Mahomes is having to sling the ball all around. This is just what they choose to do. This is the offense that they run. It's not like this is something that they have to do. He has to throw it 60 times like he did at Texas Tech because he had no defense. But the passing game, obviously, this one goes to the Chiefs. Now, the Eagles are pretty good in the pass game. They like to do a lot of things off of their play-action pass. and really fire shots downfield to Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown. They have a really good wide receiving core, but they're just not asked to do it a lot because a lot of the times they're up in games. They don't have to pass the ball, and they don't want Jalen Hurts dropping back to pass 35 times a game. So the Chiefs win this one. Before we move any further, I started a Patreon. I do this stuff all by myself, and it's a lot of work. So if you want to support me and this channel, the best way to do that is actually go to the Patreon. The link's down in the description below, and, see what we got. Some exclusive stuff there, so check it out. Defensively, on paper, this is obviously the Eagles. Their front seven might be the best front seven in all of football. They are able to get after the passer. They have the most sacks in the NFL this season. And Hassan Reddick has played phenomenal, and especially last game against the 49ers. I mean, he really showed out for that Philadelphia Eagles team. The secondary, I think earlier in the season, there could be arguments made that they were not great in the middle of the field. And maybe that's something that Andy Reid and them have picked up on and are going to try to exploit here in the Super Bowl. But secondary still really good. They got Gardner Johnson, who's one of the top secondary members in all of the league. And once you get after the passer, and once you have that front seven that can rush, you only have to be with your man for, 5 seconds before something happens. It looks like the Chiefs are going to get L'Jarius Sneed, which is huge because he's their best secondary member and a big part of what they do defensively. Their secondary is not great. They're led by a couple of rookies who have stepped up in big moments this season, but they're young. That's just what it is. Their pass rush is led by Chris Jones, and Chris Jones might be the singular best defensive player in this game. You could make the argument that he's Defensive Player of the Year. I know they're probably going to give it to Nick Bosa or Micah Parsons, but you could make the argument that Chris Jones deserves to be in that conversation for Defensive Player of the Year this season. He might be the best defensive player on the field on Sunday. But with all that being said, totality, I think that the Eagles' defense is obviously better. So what wins this game? We see the tail of the tape. What is it that's actually going to win a team a game? I think that it's going to be the passing game for both teams. If the Eagles can pass and can get into play action because they're running the ball really well and take shots downfield, I think that there's going to be some opportunities for them to do that on these young secondary members of the Kansas City Chiefs. If the Chiefs can exploit the middle of the field and try to get the ball out in space, out onto the sides quickly enough, which I think Patrick Mahomes can, and if this offensive line for the Kansas City Chiefs can hold up against this Eagles pass rush and Mahomes has time, I think that he can pick this secondary apart for the Eagles. So for both teams, whoever has a better passing game, I think, is going to win this game. The passing attack is going to be what wins this game. With all that being said, who do I have winning? I actually have the Kansas City Chiefs winning this game. The Eagles have played great all season long, but have never had to play where their backs were against the wall, where they seemed out of it. You can look back at the Cowboys game earlier this season, but they were playing Cooper Rush. You really can't feel like you're out of it when the backup quarterback is going to be playing. They lost those two at the end of the season, and that's because they had a backup quarterback in. So they really haven't been tested really this season. Their playoff games were complete blowouts, and I think that that's going to come back to kind of bite them. For the Chiefs, if they can get out to a 10, 14-point lead, I think that they're going to like their chances. Don't be surprised if the Chiefs win the toss, they take the ball and try to go down and score on the first drive. So I think that the Chiefs have been tested. The AFC is the harder division. They've beat the Bengals. They went toe-to-toe with the Bills, and I know they lost. But this is a tougher division than what they have in the NFC, and their playoff path has been tougher. And I think that they've just been kind of a little bit more battle-tested. So give me the Chiefs 27-24. Make sure that you like and subscribe. definitely hit that like button because I think it does something to the algorithm. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I know what the algorithm really does, but I've heard from a lot of different people that like button, that's what you need to hit. I don't know. I think it's right here. I think I'm doing this gesture right. Hit that like button. Subscribe. See you next time.